Hey, thanks so much for finding the video. Do us a favor. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe. And be sure to leave your comment. We love to interact. Enjoy the video. I counted today on the roster, and I counted 68 scholarships. Where are you?
Okay, so that's about that. We're not far off. So
Okay.
I say right now that they have 64 available scholarship guys. Now you can have 85, right?
Okay.
So
No,
this would put
wait. That's a good point because I counted Miles Brennan and Aaron Moffitt and guys that are
okay. So, right. So I didn't count I did not count those guys, but I did count, for instance, Racy and Trey Palmer and some guys who might be able to play this weekend. He said Torrey Carter was out, so I didn't count him.
Okay.
But yes, you actually bring up the other point. They do have, let's say, around 67, 8 total guys. Let's call it 64 available. That's 29 on offense and 31 on defense. We can talk pandemic and COVID and them obviously teetering this line of above 56 players. It's already gotten one game postponed, this Alabama game, because of contact tracing and being under the number. But that's short in any season. 29 players and 31 players on both sides of the ball. And I'm also including because, look, if you're under the 85 scholarship limit, you can give walk-ons on the team a scholarship. I didn't include any of those guys, but I did include guys like Avery Atkins and Von Rosenberg who play and are big pieces that do have a scholarship now but did not in high school.
Same. Okay. Let's talk about how they fix this, Shea, because one thing that I have consistently complimented Ed Ogeron during his time in Baton Rouge has been roster management. I think this is something he has done well, recognizing where they have shortcomings and using every avenue possible to address it. If it were Cole Tracy or Joe Burrow or traditional transfer market like Braden Fajoko and Thad Moss, like they've done a really good job of finding ways to supplement this year with Jabril Cox and Liam Shanahan. So when we look at who they've lost, who they're going to lose, and who they have committed presently, where are the biggest holes, the most obvious holes that they have to address?
Offensive line would be one that jumps out, both knowing what you've got now and then knowing that in the recruiting class, which you have coming in, you only have one guy committed. And that's not going to, they've got to sign more than that. You cannot get to February signing day and bring in one offensive lineman. And look, that's where you have to draw another line here. And this is going to speak back to this total scholarship thing. You can only sign 25. That's
Right.
it. And grad transfers count to that, JUCO guys. So you can't say, okay, go finish, or, fans, finish up the recruiting class. And then let's just go get 3 or 4 offensive linemen. It doesn't, JUCO guys, transfers. It doesn't work that way. Managing the roster and managing the recruiting class are one and the same. O's got to find that balance, which he's done in previous classes of, do I want to be under the 25 leaving February to open the door for, anyone from Joe Burrow to Liam Shanahan, right? Jabril Cox, guys that you can find after signing day that don't enter the portal till maybe after signing day that you can get in on. But they're in this spot, Matt. And here's where I think it becomes interesting. And again, I think O-line is the answer to the question, by far the biggest. I think they're doing a good job addressing the rest of the needs through recruiting. I think you could probably throw tight end in there. But we know they lost 20 to the draft, right? Or 20 draft eligible guys. And by the end, all of them had signed some sort of deal. Well, they also have 12 gone, whether it was dismissed or went into the portal. And then they had 5 opt out. And then one just true transfer during the season, Apu Aika. That's 38 guys total that aren't on the team anymore that were on last year's team. And really only 20 of them were not expected to be on the team. So you're taking a hit of nearly 20 guys that's put you into this, mid 60s of availability and then tossing all the opt outs. If you can only sign 25, and look, I went off your math to write this one down. It's called 67, 8 players on the team, include Brennan and them. They can come back next year.
Mm-hmm.
And you have this rule, right, that nobody's eligibility counts. In theory, everybody that plays for LSU can be on the team next year. You can only sign 25. That's 92, 93. And remember, they can only play, they've self-imposed 8 total scholarships over 2 years. So they'd have to be under 81 or at 81 and under. You know that you're going to lose 10 to attrition anyways. recruiting is important. Recruiting this team right now might be one of the most important things O's had to do in his tenure, and certainly coming off of the national championship season, to immediately be in this odd position of opt-outs and everything else, but just massive departures.
Mm-hmm. And by recruiting the team, you mean recruiting guys back. Like they need guys to come back so they have as many roster spots as possible, no doubt. All right, let's go back to the O-line for a second. Shea, they have 13 scholarship offensive linemen right now. They've got Garrett Dellinger committed, and they're in on Tristan Lee. We found out he's going to announce on January the 2nd. How many ideally do they want to have? Because, Shea, it seems like their numbers there aren't too thin. They're just not getting production out of the scholarship guys they have.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, you look at the younger guys, Cardell Thomas and Thomas Perry, guys like that have been injured. Bradford is a guy who says he wanted to lose weight. You see this influx of, they signed 3 guys a year ago. We've only seen Marlon Martinez. It's because he plays on a special teams unit. We don't know what they have back there. And look, maybe that's a good thing right now that O-line gets injured more than anybody else, and somehow they've made it pretty healthy through the season, minus a little bout, Ed Ingram and Dare Rosenthal have been sort of in and out of the lineup at times. But yeah, it's you could, in theory, bring all these guys back, and you hope that you can continue to develop the guys behind them. But then again, what's the chance that Ingram comes back? Maybe, okay, but he's the best guy you've got. I'm sure he's got a good draft stock. Deculus is a 3-year starter. Say what you want about how he performs. You could see a grade or just feel that, hey, it's my time to go. Liam Shanahan, you would hope, would come back again and give you another year at center. But Matt, you're playing musical chairs at left tackle right now with Dare Rosenthal and Cam Wire, in large part because it seems sometimes one of them isn't physically fit enough to be going all 4 quarters. And that's a worry. So there's a lot with the O-line right now that's sort of so different from a year ago when, yes, Joe Burrow made some things happen for him, but James Craig coached him up well. In 2018, I think he had 6 lineups in the first 6 games, and they finally settled in, and last year's unit looked good. So I guess for O-line salvation, right, even team or recruiting, you hope that, gosh, how many guys from this group can you get back again? But you also need to add some guys who are those Evan Neal types for Bama, a 5-star who can come in early and play for you right away. And then they've got guys like Leatherwood who did that and then stayed. If you get Tristan Lee, he could be a 3-year starter for you at tackle. And that's what Deculus has been. But now you're talking about a kid who's a 5-star, top 10 player in the country. If you really want to get better on the offensive line, you've got good coaching, you feel like you've got depth. Now you might just need to get more elite guys.
How do they feel about Tristan Lee?
I mean, I would say that if signing day were today, good. And look, I think that the short way to answer that for me, and I said this on our podcast today on Go 24/7, I can remember in the spring talking to Tristan Lee, and he's got the pick of the litter of where he can go to college, and all these are Oklahoma, Ohio State, Clemson, LSU, great options, obviously. But he told me, he said, look, all these schools say, hey, come in early, and you started ever since high school, you've never given up a sack. You'll compete, and you'll be right back on the field. And he said, well, I look at some of these schools, and he didn't name them, but it's obvious, and they're not LSU. They stack up multiple 5-star offensive tackles every year. How quickly is he really going to get to the field? No, I'm not saying he's not good enough to go in and win a job or he wants to be handed one, but LSU's O-line issues, how glaring they are their biggest selling point to someone like Tristan Lee right now. And because of that, I think they're in, the lead spot. But, boy, things are fluid with just recruiting in general in a year like this when LSU's not on fire.
He's on Twitter at Shea Dixon, Go 24/7. God, there's a million things I want to ask Shea. You mentioned the not being on fire. This is I'll ask it, and I know you've addressed this a million times, but it's worth addressing again just for the fan who doesn't follow recruiting as closely. How does a season like this negatively impact guys that are committed or looking at LSU to say they might flip or not come to LSU because the season's not going well?
I think it'd be a worry, right? You'd rather be 15-0 and on TV every day as the talk of the town. But I also, I've said on your show a million times and you're queuing me up for it, these kids lose all the time. They're not worried about that. They don't sit around and stare at the SEC West records and standings, and they see the trophy that LSU won. They can remember everything they did a year ago, and certainly Coach O and them are so good at recruiting that they can sell that vision and recruits say, hey, if I'm a 5-star and a big-time player and this is how they think, great. I'm going to go in there and play. I'll fix it. We'll go and I'll be starting if they don't have guys that are good enough right now. And I'm just speaking in generalities, but so far they haven't had a single decommitment, and they've popped some big commitments over the past 5 months when all hasn't been going well. And even if you want to say, Matt, and look, all the off the field stuff is not desirable in any sense for recruits or families or the coaching staff to have to deal with and sort of look over and see LSU. That's how recruiting works. That's going to be in the ears of other kids. But LSU, I think their staff's doing a good job because we haven't seen a single one of their kids decommit, and all of their guys they've been in on have sort of stayed firm. So on field, off the field, I don't think any of that's weighed too much into this class. And I think that at least bodes well for maybe how they're going to be able to close here, that if it hasn't hurt them yet, then if they can hold on another few weeks, they'll be fine.
All right, Shea, a couple other things. So they're at 22 right now in this class. I think we're all sort of going, okay, well, Tristan Lee, Mason Smith, Corey Foreman, there's 25. And yet they offered Navonte Strong. Am I saying it right? Navonte?
Navonte Brown. Well, yes, Navonte Strong, correct.
Navonte, sorry. So my assumption is, as we talk, there's going to have to be some attrition in this class. Guys that are currently committed probably aren't going to maintain that spot. I don't know if you're comfortable naming names. It's fine if not, but maybe areas where they feel like they've got enough bodies where they have to supplement with a lineman or a linebacker, wherever the case may be.
Yeah, sure. I think that 22 is not the real number. I think that's the number of public commitments. And a lot of these guys, and you can call it what you want, mutual parting of ways or shuffling of the class, but conversations have been had and are being had with where guys stand, and they know, and it's fluid with numbers, and sometimes that stuff doesn't come out till later, but you'll see Orgeron move forward feeling like, hey, we're going to take the best 25. And look, as you said, they offer Navonte Strong, who's number one JUCO middle linebacker in the country, but he plays at Gulf Coast, so he's right there. He's been committed to state. He was a 100-tackle guy a year ago. He's on pace for that again. He's really, really good. But they also offered another kid, Trevin Wallace, who just decommitted from Boston College. He had recently soared into the top 100. They offered him a month ago, but then he decommitted yesterday from Boston College, and he said, look, LSU is one of the teams really pressing me. So even beyond the Mason Smiths and Corey Foremans and Tristan Lees and certainly Brian Thomas out of Walker, who's going to announce a decision in February, and LSU will be in it there. Jordan Gilbert at U-High, a safety they offered quite recently. That you would say, well, how do they only have 3 spots? How are they fitting all these guys in? They won't hit on everybody, obviously, but they're still going to cast a wide net here. And I think these next few weeks will be really interesting to see, because I think that by design, or at least by hopeful design on Orgeron and the LSU staff's part, that the class right now might not look very similar, will look similar, but not the same as it will look on December 18th, when we could see a handful of guys come off. I think D-line outside linebacker is one where you look at it and you say, okay, they've got a bunch of those and they've recruited it well in recent years. Can you, move one off and move a safety on, or move one off and get another offensive lineman, obviously. And that's what Ed Orgeron and them get paid a lot of money to figure out.
All right, Shea, last thing, and y'all follow him on Twitter at Shea Dixon. You said there's 22 public commits. If you had to guess, or if you know, where do you think that number actually is?
I think that there's 3 or 4 guys that you would probably be considered like on the fence of, okay, are they going to end up at LSU, or do they end up signing somewhere else? So maybe that puts you, let's just say, in the 18 to 20 range. And I think that LSU feels good about Mason Smith, who's going to announce in the early period. They're certainly going to have spots held and hope that they're the team to beat for Corey Foreman and Lee. And then they've got, new offers to linebackers, all that. So I think that they're probably sitting right around 20. My guess is that, not counting the guys that may not be in the class that are currently committed, that they'll probably add somewhere like 5 more guys to the class.
Okay. Y'all follow him on Twitter at Shea Dixon. Of course, Go 247, Go 24/7. That's where you go for all the recruiting news. Nobody does it better. Shea, we appreciate a couple of minutes as always, man. Thanks for making time.
Yeah, Matt, I guess I didn't even say this. They are still ranked number 3, too, in terms of recruiting classes. So they've got a really good class, and they're trying to, hey, with those names you mentioned, they can make a push for number 1. So as bad as the on-field product has felt for everybody this year, there could be some salvation in knowing that the young guys on the field look good and they've got a pretty good recruiting class coming in.
Well said. Thanks, Shea.
All right, Matt. I enjoyed it.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.